now we take a look at news stories making headlines around the globe. Presidency has dismissed as absurd and baseless claims by Nasir El-Rufai, a former governor of Kaduna State, that President Bola Tinubu is planning to transform into life president. El-Rufai had, while speaking at the weekend, described Tinubu as a fake Democrat and a pretender. But Bayo Onunuga, presidential spokesman, while reacting to the claim that President Tinubu intends to become a life president after 2027, described it as a speculation that is baseless and absurd. He said El-Rufai seems to have realized the futility of the attempt of his associates in his new party to stop Tinubu's re-election bid. Onunuga said the plot is proven to be unattainable and is a mission doomed to fail. He added that El-Rufai was unsettled by the grand reception Tinubu received during his visit to Kaduna last Friday. Moving on, Rivers State Governor Siminalayi Fubara has visited President Bola Tinubu at the presidential villa in Abuja, his first since his suspension was lifted. Fubara, who was reinstated last week after 6 months of emergency rule in Rivers State, told State House correspondents that the meeting was simply to thank the president and seek his guidance to avoid future crises. He described it as a father-son discussion. The visit marked his first engagement with the president since the lifting of the 6-month suspension and state of emergency in Rivers State on September 18, 2025. Addressing journalists at the meeting, Fubara said his visit was primarily to thank the president and reaffirm his resumption of office. Asked about his relationship with his predecessor, Nyesom Wike, Fubara declared, and I quote him, "I don't know what you mean by paper peace. As far as I'm concerned, we have made peace." End of quote.
You're aware that the suspension was lifted on the 17th, midnight 17th, and I came in on the 19th. Ideally, it's proper for me to see Mr. President to tell him that I'm back and I've also resumed my responsibility as the governor of Rivers State. It's not much, it's father-son discussion, telling him thank you and the areas where, if at all, there should be any issue, for him to guide me properly so we don't be in any situation that will bring crisis again. That's what he said to me.
Yes. Nigerians want to know.
He advised me on what to do. I don't know what you mean by...
The people you...
I don't know what you mean by, is it a paper peace?
Or a real peace.
So long as I'm concerned, we have made peace. My Fubara and his principal are working together.
Nigeria's economy picked up pace in the second quarter, growing 4.23% year-on-year from 3.13% in the first 3 months of the year, statistics agency NBS data showed. Monday's release is the second to reflect a rebasing of Nigeria's gross domestic product, aimed at capturing structural changes to the economy of Africa's most populous country. The report showed that real GDP during the 3-month period stood at 51.20 trillion naira, while nominal GDP was estimated at 100.73 trillion naira. This marks a continued improvement in the country's economic performance following a series of modest growth figures in 2024. The oil sector contributed 4.05% to GDP in Q2 of 2025, slightly higher than the 3.97% contribution recorded in the previous quarter. All right, Dr. Bati, a number of things this morning, politics and the economy. Of course, the first part, this talk by El-Rufai that's been making waves, and now the presidency has reacted. And then, of course, Fubara has gone to pay homage to the president to say thank you for the suspension and thank you for the reinstatement. Your take on these stories, including the economy?
Okay, let's start with the economy. Now, the National Bureau of Statistics is telling us that GDP growth in the second quarter of 2025 is about 4.23%. And that we have seen a rebound in the oil sector, contributing about 4.05% to GDP growth. Now, the non-oil sector, what non-oil sector contributed is 3.64%. What we must warn against is the National Bureau of Statistics consistently playing politics with statistics, to use statistics to make the government of Nigeria look good. Now, the non-oil sector that they are talking about, 3.64%, they rounded it up to 4%. So they contradict themselves when they are playing games with these figures. The truth of the matter is that the growth in that non-oil sector is in telecommunications, it's in services, this domestic delivery service. It's okay, they added real estate to it. In other words, what you have is that you have an informal sector, an invisible sector, mostly, that you cannot really measure. But when they do their measurement politically, they come forward and they tell you, oh, non-oil sector is doing very well. Against the background of the fact that the position in this country has always been how to diversify the economy, how to see that things are working within the economy. The agriculture, as in the same period that they are calculating, 2.82% growth. Now, we keep arguing that agriculture is the mainstay of this economy. Farmers in the food basket of the country cannot go to farm. The value chain within the agricultural sector is not working. They are talking about shea butter. They have said, oh, we will ban shea butter exports for 6 months. Where is the structure in place for consolidating, ensuring, value chain with shea butter? So these are the contradictions that we find there. But I think that the present end of the National Bureau of Statistics thinks that he will survive for as long as he wants if he keeps using statistics to promote politics. I think we need to do a lot more in terms of agriculture. And we also need to do a lot more and focus a lot more on the omissions in terms of how this economy is structured. Agriculture in particular, 2.82% growth within the quarter. Now, that's nothing to celebrate. They are talking about rebasing. They are playing Ludo with statistics. No. Now, for this economy, for us to be in a position where we can begin to say, oh, a lot is happening, what Nigerians are looking for, what the experts, the Bismarck Rewanis, the Muda Yusufs, the Johnson Chukwus of this country, what I hear them saying, the Bongoadis of this country, is that, look, for us to begin to beat our chest in terms of the economy, we need double-digit growth. Not the 3.whatever% that the World Bank says is our best expectation, but a double-digit growth that shows that this is an economy that is on the foundation of productivity and that there is more that Nigerians can look at. That is that about that. I don't think MBS, giving political figures is something that we should delay ourselves with unnecessarily. Statistics should be factual. It's not about politics. It's not about making government look good. Now, the second point is about Governor Fubara, who has now shown up and who has gone to Aso Rock to thank President Bola Ahmed Tinubu. He was putting perfume on the situation, saying, the situation in Rivers State was this and that, and then President Bola Ahmed Tinubu tried to save the situation, and he had come to say thank you. Now he is committed to peace. What kind of civil servant talk is that? Okay, I would say I'm not disappointed. Who is Fubara? He rose as a civil servant, became accountant general. So he went to Aso Rock to behave characteristically as an obedient servant, as your lordship pleases. No, there's a lot that we do not know about this matter. Because Fubara shows that, the typical civil servant that he is. He goes this way, he goes that way. When the master says this is what you should do, he goes in that direction. He cannot play politics, which he doesn't even understand, with the future of the people of Rivers State. The only points that he has made that I think will seem important to me will be, okay, his point that we are committed to peace, we are committed to unity, and all of that. There is perhaps a lot more that we do not know. He has pledged allegiance to Tinubu. He has pledged allegiance to Nyesom Wike, the godfather. I hope that we will not come up one day on this same subject and discover that he is using Rivers State money to settle the spirits that are trying to control Rivers State. We hope that we will not end up one day and discover that you have an Oyo State Adedibu situation in Rivers State where the godfather says, I put you there, this is what I must collect on a monthly basis. So there is a lot that is not yet out there. But I think that the future of Rivers State that he talks about, what next that we talk about, will reveal the underbelly of this elite manipulation of the politics and of the democracy in Rivers State. So Fubara, he can prostrate here and there, prostrate in London, prostrate in Abuja. But coming back, he needs to show some spine and stop behaving like the obedient civil servant. He was even saying that, in fact, he was endorsing the declaration of a state of emergency.
Yes.
He was saying that the president did the right thing. Now, how does he want all those...
the other governors.
Other people to feel, and those rivers headers and leaders of thought, who have suddenly found their voice. All the women who were defending him. He just threw his own supporters under the bus. Can he stand up like a man and stop behaving like His Majesty's obedient servant? Finally, on the issue of Nasir El-Rufai.
Yes.
Now, Nasir El-Rufai has a tremendous capacity for what is good, for what is bad, for what is excellent, for what is evil. And I think his statement saying that President Tinubu is a fake Democrat, he wants to return and become president for life. No, it's a very mischievous, devilish political strategy. He knows, he's intelligent. After all, he has a first class. So he has also developed himself further by going to school. He knows that if you say that inside Nigeria, that one Yoruba man, where is Tinubu from now? From Lagos.
From Lagos State.
Wants to be president for life. How does he want that to resonate in the northern part of Nigeria? How would that resonate in the south of Nigeria? How will that resonate in southeast? That a Yoruba man will come and impose a monarchy on Nigeria. They may do it in Zimbabwe, where Nigeria's wife comes from. They may do it in Rwanda. They may be toying with it in Cameroon. They may do it in Chad. But in this country, given the complications that we have, ethnic and religious, that will be very difficult. But mischievous Nasir El-Rufai will throw it into the equation to create more problems for the Tinubu administration. However, President Tinubu's spokesperson, Mr. Ononuga, he spoke well by saying that El-Rufai is having hallucinations. And I think it's surprising that it is El-Rufai who understands what democracy is all about, that will be the one saying they want to do presidency for life in Nigeria, in this country. In fact, all of us will carry placards. But it's good that President Tinubu has been described as a Democrat, as a man who will not try that kind of gambit that they are trying in other African countries. Because civil society will rebel, everybody will rebel, the media will rebel. The fact that it happens in other countries does not mean that it will happen here. Tinubu is even looking for a second term in 2027. So he will jump from 2027. He will say he wants to be president for life. Even you two, you will carry placard. Even the twins will join you. I say, no, this is not our country. Not here.
Well, strengthening democracy, I think they would, I don't know if I would encourage them at this point to carry placards. Let them please rest. Nigeria's issues, they have it, but we're hoping and looking to build in a stronger nation. Let me start with River State. And in talking about River State, I think it's interesting, just a few things around that. Governor Fubara saying that he's gone to Aso Rock to pay a courtesy visit to the president to thank him for the role he played in the last 6 months in restoring peace to River State. And I look at the speech he made on assumption of office or resumption of office, that he was in pursuit of peace. And so he's a man of peace. He should possibly be going for the Nobel Peace Prize at this point, because all he keeps talking about is peace, peace, peace. But I then ask the question, at what expense? Peace at the expense of democracy? Peace at the expense of the people that he was elected, or at least I have entrusted their votes in him? Peace at the expense of democracy and strengthening institutions? These are some of the questions I have for him. I'm happy that finally River State can begin to enjoy the dividends of democracy through governance, through proper governance. He did mention in that speech that his achievements in the last 2 years in education infrastructure speak for themselves. And I think that's quite interesting, because what we've been calling on, and a number of guests we've had from that region have talked about, is the fact that they have just played politics in River State in the last 2 years, and they've not been able to enjoy good governance as a result of the political fight, if I can put it that way, between Governor Fubara and his predecessor, Governor Wike. Well, at least the good news coming from that state is perhaps we will begin to see some form of stability and peace in the state. He's going to say thank you to President Tinubu. He has talked about a relationship, and I think this further deepens my argument about the fact that PDP should begin to say goodbye to their governor in River State, because it looks very likely that he would align himself with a man he's referred to as a father-son relationship, with President Bola Ahmed Tinubu. But again, we've set the tone for him. He said he's now ready to face, work, and we look forward to that happening finally in River State. I do say so. I do still maintain that what's happened in the state is quite unfortunate and should not be encouraged if we are going to build a solid democracy, a fruitful democracy in Nigeria. But we move on, as we often do in Nigeria with matters such as this. Now, let me talk about democracy, because that's why I started with River State. The big question that has been talked about over the weekend and into yesterday and today is the fact that President Bola Ahmed Tinubu has been accused by former governor of Kaduna State, El-Rufai, that he's a fake Democrat, that he's just pretending. And, some people might say that they worked quite closely in the last administration, even in the, in his campaign. So perhaps former Governor El-Rufai knows what he's talking about. He's been able to work very closely with President Bola Ahmed Tinubu. Well, let's not take his word. Let's look at the symptoms. When you look at the symptoms of a failing democracy under this administration, let us juxtapose that side by side. First is weakening of checks and balances, whereby the centralized power, and there is a subjugation of institutions such as the judiciary, institutions like the civil service, legislature. And your guess is as good as mine if you look at this under this administration, how well or how independent these institutions have been under the President Bola Ahmed Tinubu administration. The judiciary, all eyes on the judiciary, was the theme of the day during the last elections. We've looked at how in many parts, we talked about the Supreme Court's role in the River State situation and how the matter wasn't heard in 6 months when it was suspended. Beyond that is the erosion of the rule of law as a symptom of a failing democracy. We also look at the suppression of civil liberties. A number of people have criticized, including the Foreign Mission, criticized the Cyber Crimes Prevention Prohibition Act as amended of 2024, and how there's some words in there that are quite vague and might threaten free speech and the freedom of the press under this administration. And so when we talk about a true Democrat, it's not enough to just talk about it and say, yes, I believe in the tenets of democracy, but under your administration, democracy hasn't been as threatened as it is. Some people have also argued that during the administration of, the last time we heard of an extension of a presidential tenure under the President Olusegun Obasanjo tenure, what stood strong for the Nigerian people was the strength of the legislature. who kicked against this. But in this legislature where when the president comes into parliament or into the National Assembly, they're singing, on your mandate we shall stand. How will they be able to fully check and balance if in the event he presents a bill of that nature to the House? Now, to the National Assembly. I'm saying this because we must look at these symptoms to decide for ourselves whether or not what is being practiced or what is thriving under this administration is true democracy. What we expect from a true democrat is more than ever in Nigeria. We should experience democracy in its finest. Unfortunately, some people might argue against that, and I believe that it's a time for reflection as to what legacy he'd like to leave, especially as all through the years in his time in politics, he has been touted as a true Democrat. What he might start by doing is to ensure that INEC is truly independent and you give the people a free and fair election such that the will of the people reigns supreme. That is what democracy is about. In school, we learned it's government by the people, for the people, and with the people. So it's very important that these things are looked into, and when this alarm is sounded, that we look deep into the issues and see how we can truly restore true democracy in Nigeria. At this point, let me bring you in, Rufai. Good to see you this morning. I'm sure I don't know if you heard the stories that we're discussing today. We're looking at the presidency responding to El-Rufai saying that he's not a true Democrat, the president not being a true Democrat. Fubara going to pay homage to the president, say thank you, and of course, the state of the economy.
Okay, state of the economy, over 4% GDP growth. 4.23% growth. Yes, at first, I would say, yes, kudos. But also, let's not forget that we're rebased. So we are comparing apples and oranges. The parameters of the base year are different. The parameters of the economy are different in comparison. Probably a year from now, when we see the exit numbers after we've calibrated for one full year, after the initial base year comparison, then we can make an empirical analysis. But for those that want kudos, kudos. Or like my brother and my very good friend would say, kundus to all. Dr. Batianayo, I heard both of your commentaries on point. But you brought two stories. A beaten and bullied Fubara went to say, yes, sir. I was happy with the situation. No, wait now. Somebody that's been beaten and bullied will tell you he's happy. A beaten and bullied Fubara went to say yes, sir, to the man that was using beating and bullying him. After suspending him for 6 months because of a fight with his political godfather. And Mr. Bayo Onanuga is reacting and saying President Tinubu is a Democrat. That the fears of he's going to do more than 2031 is going to ask for a third time is not genuine. Mr. Bayo Onanuga, with due respect, should stop being hypocritical. Let's look at Lagos. As Tinubu left the reins of power in over 20 years in Lagos, is he not the one still ruling the affairs of Lagos politics? Why? You see, Nigerians, we know how to deceive ourselves. A man that has shown you how he's going to do it with a playbook in Lagos. He got into Lagos from 1999 to 2007. After that, everybody that has been governor has been at his beck and call. See the way he treated Governor Sanwo-Olu the other day. Taking National Assembly members, bringing them to Abuja, House of Assembly members. See the way he brought back, what's he called? What's his name? The former speaker. Obasa.
Speaker Obasa.
See the way he dismissed the first lady speaker. You were saying women and speaker. First women speaker, you were speaking. I said they were going to bring back Obasa. You didn't believe me. I told you I got from my source they were going to bring him back. You didn't believe it. What ended her journey? It's not Oreni she was singing. Oreni. So a man that has done it in Lagos successfully. Why are Nigerians are very hypocritical?
Sorry,
that's the problem.
Nigeria is not Lagos.
Oh.
Nigeria is not Lagos.
But it is from Lagos that they build the political base to get Nigeria. It is from Lagos that the bread is buttered. Without Lagos, they will not get to Nigeria. Lagos is not Nigeria, but Lagos are one of the biggest GDP dispositions in this country. Tell me another state that makes more money than Lagos. Tell me another state in the country that has more resources than Lagos, that does more IGR than Lagos. He did it successfully in Lagos. Mark my words, he's set to do it again if Nigerians don't stand up. It is you that will have to stand up and ensure that your voices are heard. He has done it successfully for over 20 years in Lagos. He's doing it to the extent now. Are you not hearing some names close to him that want to be governor in Lagos? Are people not going to lobby to him to pick the next governor in Lagos? So why are we being hypocritical and we are dally-dallying and dally-dallying? Ikenna, my brother, I give you the 30 seconds, Jerry. We'll wrap up.
Okay,
El-Rufai is not in a position to give an empirical evidence that does not exist.
It's fine.
So, we the people, we own this democracy. That's why the first line in the Nigerian constitution says, we the people. Nigeria is not Zimbabwe. It's not Rwanda. It's not Chad.
Dr. Abati. The same thing you are saying is what Lagos people have been saying in 1999. We the Lagosians, we own Lagos, we own the democracy.
Dr. Abati, talking
but
about
it's
Chad.
Baba Sokwe that becomes president.
Did it through constitutional amendment. So it went through the process.
Who will come amend constitution over our head and say Tinubu can be president for life?
Assembly?
You will be part of those that analyze that day. Don't worry, I remind you.
Thank you
No,
so
it will not happen. We'll carry placards.
He wanted to recruit my children to carry placards. I said no.
Because it's the future we are talking about.